So welcome everyone to the second presentation of our Week with the Arts. This follows a great presentation yesterday evening by Joe Monroe called Cheap Chic. And we will have his presentation and all of these recorded and online next week once we've had a chance to process them. Today's presentation is called Reborn. It is by Kelly Petit and Kira May, and they have gone and found a fabulous thrift shop piece with potential and given it new life through the process of faux finishing. So I can't wait to see this presentation. You both are so creative. So before I get started, thank you all for being here. Our events are nothing without our supportive guests, and the fun is bringing you all together. And one of these days we'll be able to do that in person. And we're grateful for these online opportunities as well to help us see one another and learn new things. So thank you for supporting A Week with the Arts, helping Gadsden Arts proceed in its mission this year to improve quality of life through art. Which means, you know, all sorts of things. You can see in the photograph, Sarah, our museum educator, offering a tour of our Women Artists for Centuries exhibition in the fall. We've been able to continue all of our programming in the pandemic, as well as online programming like this. And that's thanks to all of you. Thank you to our auction artists and donors as well. We have 70 beautiful works of art and some additional handmade items, jewelry and furniture in the auction. I hope that you'll all take a good look at it and enjoy bidding. Usually bidding starts to heat up around Thursday and gets really competitive on Saturday. And that is the last piece to reaching our fundraising goal. So thank you, all of you who have put this auction together for us. And thank you, sponsors. Our sponsors are a huge part of the success of our Week with the Arts every year. Our community is extremely generous, and we appreciate every one of these corporate sponsors. And now to introduce our presenters, Kelly Petit and Kira May. They're a mother-daughter team, so we'll start with mom. Kelly Petit was originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and she's lived in Tallahassee for the last 28 years with her husband, John. She raised two daughters, and after that, she started to try her hand at painting, and she found that she had a hidden talent. From that moment on, her love of all things creative took off, and she began taking art classes all over the country, mostly focusing on faux finishes for walls and furniture. Networking with some of the top artisans around the country allowed Kelly to have a hand in creating luxury finishes in restaurants in Louisville, Kentucky, New Orleans, and numerous locations around the Big Bend region. She says the beauty of paint is it can always be changed. And once that is realized, the sky's the limit to what can be achieved. Kelly's daughter, Kira May, has been creative since she was little, since she was old enough to hold a crayon. Kira has created decorative windows for retail shops in Tallahassee, the latest for Hearth and Soul, their 2021 holiday window. Kelly and Kira together created the entire scene of an Alpine village experience. Kira loves detail work and creating finishes for clients on walls, custom artwork, and finishing furniture like you'll see her do today. So welcome, Kelly and Kira.
Before we start our video, hi everyone. I wondered, Kira, if you would want to just say a few quick words about what we're about to see and what it is that you do.
Yes, I absolutely will. Do you want me to get going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we went ahead and we peeked around some Goodwills and little thrift shops in town, just looking for an easy piece of furniture, something that most people may have in their house already, an extra coffee table, a little something in the garage that's been sitting, you know, either ready to donate. And we thought it would be fun to bring new life to it. There's so many different approaches, and we just kind of went with something that we thought would be pretty universal, but, you know, changing up colors. And like you'll see as we get into it, we used a stencil, all different kinds of stencils, paints. There's so many different options and things you can do, which we can elaborate on at the end if anybody has any questions or wants any other tips or ideas. But yeah, we had fun and we're happy with it. It was, I think the table was $5 maybe. It had a couple little things wrong with it that we were able to fix. And, you know, some pieces of your own may have a little broken top. You could just patch it up with some caulk or just little things like that that can really bring life into trash, really. So y'all enjoy, and excited to answer some questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Kira. Be sure if you have questions along the way, either write them down or put them in the chat and we will get to it after the video. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pettit.
And I'm Kira May.
My daughter, Kira Pettit May.
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to that.
Yes.
Anyhow, so we are artists that live here in Tallahassee and Quincy, and we are painting this piece of furniture today. I wanted to make this pretty simple so that you could walk around your house, see if you had a piece that you like. Sometimes pieces are functional and they look really good. You just need to give them a little update. So I went and found this little piece here. It's a nice table. It's, actually, I might even end up keeping it after we finish it.
Little end table.
Yeah, it's a cute little end table. And it had some water damage on top. So,
Like an old, like kind of dated stain.
yeah,
color.
yeah, just kind of that oak look that, you know, it's a little out of date right now. And it has this cute little drawer that goes in the front, so it is functional. You know, I could see it being like next to a chair. You can keep remotes in it or whatever.
Yeah.
So today, what we're gonna do is, we're doing this at home in my studio, so it might take one of us to go over and get the camera and move around, but we will both be working on this, and it should be a pretty quick, easy project.
That anyone can handle at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think really anyone. It's going to be very minimal supplies. I'll give you a few tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. I've been doing this now for, honestly, probably 25 years, but I've taken lots of classes and learned just little things that can make it go, quicker and easier, and just some tricks like that. So, Kira, if you would go over by the camera now, and why don't you zoom in on the top and show everyone what it looks like right now. And again, I got this at, I feel like I went to the thrift store on the other side of town. It's the Children's Lighthouse, and I got this table for $5. And you can see, I mean, it's for sure, it's tired, it's, it's gonna have it
Little drawer goes in the front.
Yeah, the little drawer. Oh, and Kira, show them this. So this drawer had this, again, pretty dated. Oh gosh, that doesn't matter. It was this, and then this little knob, and this is brass. And we could reuse this. They make some amazing spray paints that you could paint this black or white or metallic, but I thought it'd be fun if after we get this sort of painted, maybe we could go on a little field trip to maybe like Hobby Lobby or Home Depot or something and find some really cool knob, because knobs are like jewelry, so it can change the look of everything. But I think once we do this, I don't know, we'll see, Kira. We might just want to repaint this one and see how it looks.
Yeah.
And if we like it, great. And if not, we'll go get a new one.
Yeah.
So I went ahead, there's a lot of steps on this that you don't have to watch anyone do. It's pretty basic, but I'll sort of explain it. So the first thing you're going to want to do, of course, is wipe it down, just clean it off. I mean, it was, who knows what's been all over this thing. And it actually had some sticky stuff on it that I had to just wipe off, just like you would at your own house. And then I like to use these sanding pads that are squishy. You can get them at Home Depot. And this is my favorite sandpaper, this purple, and I'm using 120 grit. And I'm going to sand. Kira, why don't you zoom in and show them what we mean by the grain. So when you look at wood, there's a grain that runs a certain way. So when you're sanding, you're gonna wanna always follow that grain, because if you go side to side, you can see those little scratches. They really, here, I'll show you again, see? Yeah, and you don't want that, because that will actually be in the wood, and then when you paint it, that will show up as well. So just try to stay in the grain. And so yesterday, just so you didn't have to watch this boring part, I sanded the whole thing, and when you're done sanding, you're just gonna wipe it down. And what I like to do sometimes is I just get like an old paintbrush and brush it. You see all that dust, because it does get down in these little grooves here. So I went ahead, sanded, and prepped it all yesterday. And I'll, wipe it down again. A little trick when you're doing, here, I'll show down here. When you're doing the legs, sometimes I'll take the sandpaper and you kind of just, back and forth, or just fold it and just, go like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just reopening the surface of the old finish. And the primers that they make these days are so good that you don't have to worry too much about that. And so why don't we take 2-second break? I'm gonna wipe this down and then I'll explain what we're gonna do as far as priming goes. Okay, so here's a big, huge tip, especially on a little piece like this. So you always have to prime first. I found that the paint primer combos, they just don't work as well. And for years, whenever I painted or primed furniture, I'd go get the brush, and I'd paint it on. And then I took a class and the teacher was like, oh no, here's a quick, easy tip. Use spray paint primer. Now I know this is showing up backwards, but it's just Rust-Oleum. And since we're painting this, we're gonna go like a charcoal color.
Flat, right? Always in flat.
Always in flat, yeah. Primers always come in flat. And since our color that we're painting on top of this primer is gonna be dark, I decided to use the gray primer because that way you're not fighting a white primer trying to get black. You might have to do 3 coats, where this will probably get away with, 1, probably maybe 2. So again, I don't want to bore everyone, but there are a few tips. I'm not gonna spray this whole thing because I'm gonna actually need to take it outside for ventilation. But Kira, if you zoom in, let me just give a few tips when you go to spray. Number 1, do what they say and shake this really, really good, because you'll get these sort of little spit marks. Yeah, Kira knows because she's done it before too. And so again, back to follow the grain. And I find that if you sort of start spraying a little bit over here and then spray to the, off the edge, you'll get a nice clean look. Look at how easy that is. And it covers really well. I mean, Kira, zoom in on this. So here's the water damage. And it's a nice soft finish. And this stuff dries, we'll be able to paint on this in about 30 minutes, which is really nice. So as you can see, not a lot of skill involved, but I think this saves so much time when you do furniture. And keep shaking all through your spray, because it just keeps it going. But look at that already. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this outside because it really does smell. And those little masks that I have, they don't work keeping stuff out of your nose. So I'm gonna take it outside. So we'll be back when this is dry, and then we'll start the fun part, which is the painting. Okay, so it's been about 35-40 minutes. It dried out in the sun, so it's great. And what we're gonna do now is we have this really pretty, you'll see it once it starts going on. It's called After the Storm, and it's this dark, like blue, sort of charcoal-y color. It's really pretty. And our plan is to paint the whole table in this color and then use a stencil, which we'll show you after this is done. We'll use a stencil on the top. And I'm thinking it would be really pretty if we did the drawer, maybe the cream color that we're planning on doing the stencil. So you have this sort of designer look. It's not just a plain, all painted the same piece of furniture. It just shows that you put a little more time and attention into things. And I always like to pour paint into a smaller container because we had the big gallon and it's really heavy and bulky. So I just poured what I thought I'd need in here. And Kira will come over and help me, and I'll show you a few just quick tips. I think everyone, we've all painted something in our life, but there are things that will make it a little easier. Oh, and Kira, look, I see that I'm dripping. It's okay, it's just water from my paintbrush. I just wanna wipe that off before I start. Okay, so once again, back to the grain. You want to always, we remember, go back and forth, but this is my paintbrush. This little guy has had lots of projects that he's been on with me, but you want to just, not too much. Now here's the trick too. You don't want to gob on the paint. It does seem like, oh, the more you put on, the quicker it'll go, but it looks goopy and yucky. So just take your time with it. I find painting to be very relaxing. It's a very nice, you know, back and forth. And you can already see that water damage is gone. I mean, it's gone. And this is a really pretty color. And I'm so glad that we went with the gray primer because as you can see, this is only going to take 2 coats. Although, Kira, zoom in on that. If you can see how it almost, you know, has like a watercolory look. So listen, as you're going along, if you guys get to a spot where you like it, leave it. I mean, I've done that a lot too.
Looks like kind of beachy.
Yeah, it's sort of like a beachy, worn color. And if you like it like that, I don't know, Kira, maybe we're gonna like it like this. Now that I see it, I wasn't planning on that, but I think it looks really pretty. So here it is again in the middle. And I mean, isn't that incredible that we started with this little $5 table that someone probably was about to throw away and took it, thankfully took it to the thrift store, and now we get to transform it. So, okay, so here's another, when you're on the inside, see that little edge? If I go over, it looks messy. So try to sort of keep neatening up your edges. Now, not all pieces of furniture are gonna have that little edge, so just, if it has it, just try
It's
to.
like kind of like you said with the wood grain, like this one runs like that.
Yeah.
And then that piece, because it's going to corner off here, is going to run that way. So you keep the strokes going that way.
Yes.
And then these ones going that.
Exactly. Good tip, Kira. Good tip. So when you do a round surface like this, there are 2 ways you can do it. Sometimes I start bottom first. So I would have flipped this piece of furniture upside down, done the legs, and then when those are dry, flip it back over. But that doesn't always work. If you're working on a table that's so big you can't flip it over, then you just have to deal with it. So this is how I like to do it. I like to get on as much as I can, like that. Try to, you know, don't worry about it being so neat. And then come back in and sort of pull it up and smooth it out. Okay, because again, this is where you'll get all your drips. So if you put on too much, like I'll give an example. You know, you put on too much, that's gonna drip down and that's where it looks bad. And then you'll have to sand it and it just turns into a whole other deal. But here I like to just flip it around and then smooth it out. So there you go. So back to the, we're gonna go ahead and finish all this painting. This dry time on this is gonna be a lot longer because we'll do 2 coats. So I don't think that you want to film a piece of furniture drying, but you get the idea. And when it says it takes, 3 hours to dry, really let it dry that long because each layer that you put on top, it has to be dry. Otherwise, your paint will dry on the surface, not underneath. It will be wet, and then that wet paint is going to release your top layer, and it just turns into a disaster. So this is very important that you have patience and really let that dry. And honestly, when I paint like this for clients, I would probably let this dry overnight. We'll probably do a couple hours. Kira needs to run errands or whatever, and we'll come back to it. And then that's where it's going to be really fun because we're going to get to use the stencil. Maybe we can do some distressing.
Yeah.
So anyhow, okay, back to work. Okay, everything's dry. We ended up doing 2 coats, and look at how much better it looks already. Kira went ahead and painted the drawer in that pretty white cream color. So this is how I like to approach furniture too. Sometimes it's good to have a plan, and sometimes it's just good to let things happen as they go. And I know for me, sometimes I have to see what I don't like before I can see what I like. So I love introducing a new color in here, and we're now gonna address the top with the stencil. But as I look at this and see that white drawer, I'm thinking maybe this edge here, white would be pretty. There's lots of detail on those legs that we could just do a little, band of white to bring it down into a whole piece and make it look real designer. Because when you do hire someone like Kira, or myself, that's what you're paying for, is that, you know, think outside the box, make it look really special and unique. So Kira, why don't you come over here and show the top of this? And it really is just such a pretty color. So before we started filming, we went ahead, when you're using a stencil, well, let's just first talk about that. So here's a stencil. I just got this one at Hobby Lobby, and I liked it because it was real geometric, and it had knowing that my table had this little edge here, I really wanted it to be sort of like a tile look almost. So I chose this stencil, Hobby Lobby. I mean, I think it was 12 bucks. You would be surprised. They have some really good stencils there. And if you wanted to get all adventurous, I order a lot of stencils online. I have a lot of retailers, and they're pretty awesome. And when you buy a stencil, if you have never stenciled before, just read the quick directions. They have a few tricks and tips, but each stencil has these little tiny holes. You probably can't see them, but they're called registration marks. And I won't need them so much because this pattern is very specific. But if you have a loose floral or something like that, what you want to do is just put a little bit of chalk on these registration marks, and it keeps everything level instead of, you know, going along and all of a sudden you find your stencil is drifting off. But that's more important on big walls, not on a piece of furniture. So Kira, look, we'll show what I went ahead and did. Since we're only stenciling on this middle insert, we're gonna leave this band. We went ahead and measured, and it was, what did we come up with, Kira? It was
21.
21. And so we found the middle of that, 10.5 inches. I took my white chalk, we marked it on each, and then, as you can see, did a real super faint chalk line just as a guide. So when I lay this stencil down, you'll see what I mean when I say, can you see that since it's so dark? Mm-hmm. Okay, so see how the design tends, so look, I'm not gonna go crooked like that because I have my white line. So I keep the design on the line, right there, I feel like is the middle. Now you can go ahead and tape your edges if you want. I feel like this is not necessary on this one for me personally, but if you want to go ahead and tape, but if you do,
To hold it down.
to hold it down. But if you tape on this, you make sure that this is dry as a bone, because new paint without a top coat will pull up with some tape. So just be very, very careful. And I am going to use this little foam roller that I got at Home Depot. Now this is real important. When you do stencil, you don't want to use a ton of paint. I mean, you do not need a lot. And I actually like the look of sort of a,
And best when the roller's like dry, fresh.
yes, yes, very important. If you wash your roller, actually, I'm going to roll this off up here just to make sure that I have the paint evenly loaded. So I'm going to go in one direction. I'm not going to be all sloppy. If the paint sneaks underneath, we can come back and touch it up with the blue. It's not a big deal. But stencils are so great because you can really get a really big impact. And so there's so many, I mean, if you want to just go down a rabbit hole of stencil techniques, go onto YouTube, and there are some artists that do the most amazing things with stencils. But look at this, I haven't even had to reload my roller yet. And personally, again, this is just me, but I kind of like when it's a little faded and not perfect. It gives it that sort of distressed look. And this is the exciting part. Kira, how much do you love pulling a stencil?
It's the best.
It's the best. Okay, so we did the first one, and we'll pull that up. And there's our design, and I love it. I can't even believe how good that looks already.
So good with the white on the front.
Does it? Does it
Yeah.
look so good? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I can't place the stencil right here yet because this has to dry. But for quick dry purposes, I'll use the blow dryer, which you can too when it's just this part. And you could probably do this whole little tabletop without having to worry about rewashing this. But, you know, make sure that You're not getting big gunky edges. If you start to notice that on the next pull, it's a little messy, just stop, rinse your stencil, dry it off. This is really easy to clean. And at the end of the project, of course, you're gonna really wanna wash this because you can reuse this over and over with lots of different colors. So why don't we take a break? I'll just quick dry this and then we'll come back and keep stenciling. Okay, so we dried that. Now, Kira, if you come on, this is almost like a puzzle, so I love to do this. Look, you just, since we're not using our registration marks, you just look for where it all lines up again. You see that? And once you line that up, you are good to go. So over here, I'm gonna roll the paint on again. Now, I did not tape, maybe I should have, but I'm gonna try to be super careful. And again, it's only paint, so if I go a little over here, all I have to do is paint over it with blue. I'm not gonna worry about it. So here we go again. We're gonna roll, and I'll try, let me put my glasses on because I really wanna try to keep it inside. And again, I'm just gonna go like this. Right there. And after you finish this, if like, let's say you feel like you want more coverage, just go back over, replace the stencil over the design, and you can do a whole other coat. But like I said, I kind of like it when it just gives it that more hand finish look as opposed to factory finish. So it's really just up to you what you want to do. So over here, and you see how I'm lightly pressing it down on the edges as I do it so that we don't have any bleed through. Look at that. So I think we can go ahead and do the upper corner right now. Look at that. Isn't that, it's like magic. I love doing this. Okay, look at that. Last one, and I also haven't even reloaded my roller. And I do see I'm gonna have to do some touch up, but that's good that I can show you how to do that. So here we go. But, oh, look, oh, that's okay. Don't panic. It's only paint. If I had taped it, it wouldn't be an issue. So you see my mistake shows you what happens. So there you go. Voila! Look at that. Oh my gosh. That really is so cute. Okay, so Kira, zoom in on these little edges. So look, I got some right here, a couple over here. Look at this whole edge right here. No big deal. All I'm going to do is take my, let me get behind you here. After I'm done, I have a little artist brush and I can just go ahead. You can neaten up your edges. Go back like this and look, it's really not a big deal. So let's do the touch up. I am so happy with this. I think this is the cutest table. So cute. I love it. So I'm gonna go ahead, clean my stencil, do a little touch up, we'll let it dry, and then we'll come back and we'll start adding some white highlights and maybe some distressing. We'll just keep going with this. But right now I am so happy with this table. And Kira, we do need to go get a really fun little knob.
Yeah, for sure.
It will take it, it will make it look like $1 million. So there you go. So let's go wash this. Real important, don't let this dry overnight. It just gets hard to wash. I usually just take some, I have some cleaner over there, you know, and just spray it on, and you know, you'll just lightly have to rub it. Try to be real gentle. You don't want to bend these because then the paint will get underneath it, but just clean that up and we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we let this piece dry overnight, which is really important. It has to be 100% dry because the next thing we're gonna do is distress. And some people don't like a lot of distressing. I personally find that when you paint a piece of furniture, no matter how many times you top coat it, no matter what you do, if anything is gonna chip or wear off, it's always on the edges. So if you pre-distress it before that can happen, and then you polyurethane on top of your distressing, then it alleviates all of that worry of things chipping. And I think it just sort of, Kira, if you want to zoom in here, I think it just sort of defines everything. And here, I'll show you. So this is, again, my purple. I'm sorry about my dogs barking. But you can see here on the end, on the edges. You see that, Kira? Yeah. Is it showing up? Yeah. Okay, so I did the little white drawer. Now on the blue, same thing. And again, you can do this if you like heavy distressing, go ahead. I actually kind of like it a little heavier, but it's just my personal preference. And since I'm doing this right now, I'm gonna go a little heavy. So you see how that just sort of defines, Kara, look from the top, you can really see it. See here as opposed to here. Now watch, ready? There. So that sort of adds like, it's almost like outlining it like a little magic marker. And I think that looks really nice. And you know, you can go down and do it to the legs too. Just follow the grain. And you can just do hints here and there. The next time you're at a store, look at a piece of furniture that's distressed and you'll see they don't do the whole thing. It's just kind of a, you know, here and there. So
A highlight.
a highlight, yeah. And then, so the next thing that I think we're gonna do on this little piece, because of the knob that I got, I'll give you guys a little look. So I went to Hobby Lobby and got this pretty brass knob. It was actually on sale, 50% off. It was only $2. Oops. So this will go on here. So I thought, well, I'm gonna add a little gold accent. So I'm gonna show this stuff. It's called Rub and Buff. And again, you can get it at Hobby Lobby. And what it is, it's a gilding paste that I like to use just to, again, add a little highlight. So I took a piece of cheesecloth. This stuff is almost like toothpaste consistency. And when you wanna add a little bit of a, should I do some here, Kira, or do you think I should just do it? Let's start down here.
Legs, yeah.
Yeah, and this stuff, you know, you barely, I mean, I am barely touching my cheesecloth, but look, you can see that. And don't do it all solid and hard. You just want to do little, you know, rubs here and there. Again, if you look at furniture, look, I'll just sort of rub it around on here. I think that looks nice. So there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I think, is, oh, and then Kira, come, I don't know if you can see down here. I thought it'd be pretty if we just add some right there. And it just makes all those little details that would normally get lost if you didn't have highlights on it. You can use this stuff on light fixtures or, gosh, what have you used on, Kira? I know you've...
Yeah, I've done a lot of light fixtures with it.
Yeah.
Anything metal and
This-
tables, like table edges.
Yep, and this stuff comes in a million colors, literally, especially if you go on Amazon, and you can just put it on over anything. So there you go. So why don't we take a few minutes, I'll go around and do my accenting, and then we'll come back and I'll have the knob installed, and we can start with our top coat, which is so important. And again, those are some tips and tricks I can teach you about that too. So see you in a minute. Okay, so everything's done. Kira, did you zoom in and take a look? I added all the gold down here. I love it. I think it looks really pretty. Put the knob on, kind of changed it all. And just think, for $5, this table was literally $5, maybe $5 in paint. I had to buy the stencil, but I'm gonna reuse that. And $2 for that knob, 50% off at Hobby Lobby. And I just think it's so cute. And just remember, it's only paint. So if after you have this for a little while and you don't like it, just paint over it. So here's the final step. I like to use always water-based polyurethane. Oh, and if I forgot to mention that, everything we use on this is acrylic, water-based cleanup. I don't use oil. It's toxic, it's messy. This you can just rinse with water.
Yellows.
What?
It yellows.
It yellows, yes. Good point, Kira. If you use a polyurethane on top of furniture that has any kind of white or a light color, it will eventually yellow over time and it looks horrible. We've all made that mistake and it only happens once because then you learn your lesson. So a couple of tricks about this. When you have polyurethane, just mix it gently. You don't want to do a real violent mix because it will create bubbles. And remember, this is your final coat, so you put all this time and effort into the painting and sanding and whatnot, so you just want to take your time with it. So I just do, usually on furniture, I like to do 3 thin coats. So I distressed as much as I wanted. I wiped everything down. And again, follow the grain. Although at this point, you're gonna want most of it going this way, but I'll start over here. And you just do, this is my first coat, so you don't wanna stop. Can you see that little line? You don't want that. You wanna follow through up here, real thin. And the good news is about this stuff dries literally within 30 minutes. So you could top coat this whole piece in, you know, a little more than an hour. And you don't have to do 3 coats. If this is a table that you don't think is gonna get a lot of wear and tear, just do 2 coats and I think you would be fine. So I just think this is the cutest little table. I have to be honest, I got a little nervous when I bought it. I thought, oh, I hope I can make this look okay. What do you think, Kara? I love it. It's adorable. I think it's adorable. I really do. I'm now in love with the navy. I think it looks really, really nice. So that's that. Don't overwork it. It's not 100% covered right now, but that's okay because the next coat we'll put on maybe a little bit thicker and we'll be able to see all the spots. That's the nice thing about this. When it dries, you can see exactly where you need to go back and double coat.
Did you, the finish you used?
Yeah, so good point. So this polyurethane, you can buy it literally at any Home Depot, Lowe's, even Walmart. This is new for them and I get it all the time now. It's called a matte finish. And what it does is it's not real shiny. Sometimes that shiny look, it has its perfect place. It looks great, but most of the time I just find that for furniture, the look that I like is just the matte finish. And that's what a lot of designers have me do and clients seem to like it better too. So that's just my go-to now is the matte finish. And sorry, I'm walking off. I wanna show you, if you buy it, so always look for this blue can. This is the oil-based kind, this can right here. It has its purpose and its time and everything, but not for this project that we're working on. So everything I can just toss in the sink, clean up with water. It's so nice. So that is it. I will let this dry. It is going to be, I don't know what's gonna happen to this table, Kira. What do you think is gonna happen to it?
I don't know.
I don't know. Do we sell it? Maybe you get it. I don't know. We'll see. But I hope that this inspires you all to try to do this yourself because you really can paint anything. Don't you think, Kira?
Agreed.
100%. So go ahead, walk around your house or go to a Goodwill and find something cheap because again, it's only paint and it can be painted over. So have fun. Thanks for joining.
Okay, everybody, save up your questions. Thank you so much, Kira and Kelly. We're gonna take a quick moment and hand it over to Angie to talk about some auction items before we get to the Q&A.
Hello. That was so fun. I have to say, makes me just want to go and paint something. And Kira and Kelly have graciously donated this table to our auction, so you can bid on it yourself if you don't want to go do all that work. Although they made it look really easy. And it is auction number 062. So if you want to go look it up, and also the table is here and it is gorgeous. It is so cute. We were also excited when we put it in the gallery. So thank you. But I wanted to give a little bit of auction highlights here. Here's another example of a piece of furniture in our auction. This is a handmade oak cherry and Ponderosa pine bench made by Dick Monroe. It was, the slab is the red oak and the bow ties are the cherry and the legs are the Ponderosa pine. And it's finished with a hand-rubbed Odie's super penetrating oil, which is food safe and water resistant. So it's really quite a durable bench or coffee table, kind of however you like. It's about 18 inches tall, so it's not too big, but I think it would fit really handsomely in a lot of different homes. So that is auction item number 26. And our next one is another fun addition to any home. This is a wreath by Nancy Adams. She titled it Never Too Old. And it's really, she says you're never too old to enjoy the nostalgic feeling of vintage Halloween masks. So this fanciful wreath is made of Halloween masks from the 1960s. And it's kind of her way of preserving them for the next 60 years. And we think it's just such a fun and colorful thing. And it's big. It has such a great presence in the gallery. Our next item is a wonderful acrylic painting by Janice and Jim McCaskill. She is one of our Artist Guild members and has been for a long time, as well as Nancy Adams. But this painting is really an iconic one from her called Entanglement on Highway 98. And she creates this kind of stunning portrayal of a person who's on a walk with these really vivid shadows falling all around them, because she wants to kind of consider what may or may not go unnoticed on our daily walks. I thought it was kind of an interesting imagery that she's put together here. Next is a beautiful, wonderfully handcrafted needlepoint pillow by Fiore. It's titled Double Happiness. And I mean, the quality and craftsmanship in this pillow is amazing. I mean, it's really breathtaking, and the kind of cool pastel color palette emphasizes the much darker detailing in the pattern of the pillow center. And it's really just amazing. And Carol is well recognized for her needlepoint. She's also in our Artist Guild, but she was juried into Fiber Forum, which is the art needlework section of the Embroiderers Guild of America back in 2017. So we're thrilled to have this pillow as part of this work of art in our auction. And lastly, we do have a lot of landscape paintings and such in our auction. This piece called Old Glory by Terry Hawkins is an oil painting that's rendering of this kind of old rustic silo, and really is, a staple of Southern architecture. But it's great because Terry's able to capture the shininess and also the dullness of the exterior of this silo. And it's really just kind of a, wonderful nostalgic piece that I think would be a great addition to your collection. So one thing I wanted to ask is if we do have we are doing, what are those things called? What are we doing? We are doing a People's Choice Award that I will be announcing the winners to tomorrow night. I'm going to put the link in our auction, but our link in the chat. So I hope y'all will vote for your favorites. And now I want to turn it over to Kira and ask just a couple questions. First, from Carol Fiore, the creator of that beautiful pillow, asked, if you're working with something that is heavily carved, can you use liquid sandpaper?
I've actually never worked with liquid sandpaper. The main purpose of using the sandpaper is just to buff off any polyurethane, or mainly if it's oil-based, and to create like a bond with the paint for a flat surface. So I think you'd be fine getting around. I mean, some of that, like on those table legs, when you get up close, you can see they have a little bit of carving, and we tried to get in there, but it's not enough to where there's going to be rubbing on the piece of furniture to worry about in carving. It's really just getting the paint in there, and it'll cover whatever is on there that you're trying to paint cover. Again, the sandpaper just kind of helps form a bond on mainly the flat surfaces where you have lamps sitting or books or things that are going to rub and possibly peel that paint up. So, but liquid sandpaper, I'm a little embarrassed to say I've never heard of it. So
I had no idea. That's so interesting.
I've worked with some stripping liquids and stuff, which are really, it's a lot of chemical and it's a lot of work. So I would say probably not necessary.
Yeah. Interesting. And then Cynthia wanted to know, what's the brand name of the gold paste?
It's Rub and Buff. So rub with an N, buff. And I think we've got some sitting right here in our Rub and Buff container. And we have all sorts, like my mom said, there's so many colors. They have all different types of gold, silver, rose gold, all sorts of stuff. But this is it. It's a little tiny tube, and you hardly use any at all. If you can see that, okay.
It's perfect. Perfect for
just with cheesecloth, dab it on there, and it'll go forever. It's great, and even longer on metals. I've used it on like lamp cords, just to add a little highlight if the lamp cord's shown. Light fixtures that'll drop down from the ceiling if they come. Sometimes the chain will come black or silver and not really match the finish of the room, and it's great. My mom was telling me a story about a client that she had told about, and the client's husband called my mom and said, my wife is rubbing, buffing everything in our house because it's so easy to use and it's fabulous. It's great.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
good stuff.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's all of our questions.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one more. Is the prep process the same if you're working on a piece of metal furniture?
Metal, well, you won't, be needing to sand it obviously, but priming, yes. And painting, you wouldn't probably want to use an acrylic paint on. Again, it would just kind of depend on how much contact it's going to have with other stuff. If it's just a piece of metal that's going to sit somewhere like a little end table without much traffic, you could probably paint it with anything you want, but there are oil-based paints. Spray paint is great for painting metal because it's oil-based. It's easy to use, like you saw with that primer. But again, back to the color situation, if you're trying to get a black piece of metal white, priming it with a gray first or a lighter white to help kind of ease your number of coats that you're having to put on would be a good tip for that. But taking to YouTube would probably be a great suggestion if you need some more tips on that. But like I said, probably oil-based, or again, something that's just going to sit in the corner. You could paint it with, anything if you're not worried about it getting scratched.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kara. This is so fun
Yes.
to watch you guys
Thank
do that and then to
you.
see the finished product here. So thank you.
Of course.
Turn it back over to Grace.
Absolutely. And I had one more question for you, Kira, which was, do you and Kelly have favorite places to go find the raw material, the pieces of furniture that you refinish at good prices? Joe was talking a little bit about that last night. Where do you go to find a $5 table that could turn out like that?
The Goodwill on the north side of town, off Thomasville Road, kind of by Childs High School, is good for furniture. And the one across from Esposito's is good too. They have a ton of great furniture in there, all sorts of different stuff, chairs, tables. And then the Lighthouse thrift that my mom actually got that table from, which it's sort of down by the airport, but that's a good one. And they've got a good mix of stuff too, all different types of furniture. And then every once in a while on online yard sale on Facebook, you can find some good deals. That's just usually like almost like a higher end piece of furniture, but they've got good stuff on there, and you can usually wiggle people down on pricing and stuff too if you want to find something to just make a little fun project out of.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know about everyone else, but I learned so much today, and I agree with Angie. I want to run out and buy something and start.
Yes.
Hey, how fun. I think the biggest challenge is that the possibilities are endless.
Yes.
So, yeah, you have to decide what you want to do. That's probably the tougher part, but.
Yes. And if anybody has any more questions or thinks of anything later, they can, feel free to find us on Instagram or Facebook and shoot us a little message where we could get a little more detail, or if things pop up as you're halfway through your project and you need help, you can try to hunt us down and we'll do our best to help.
Fantastic. Kira, can't thank you enough. And Kelly couldn't be with us, but thank you, Kelly, as well. What a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to share this with everybody and to support Gadsden Arts as well.
Yes.
So I'm pleased to share with you what's coming next this week. Tomorrow's presentation is Cocktails with the Curator with Angie Berry. Note that staff do the alcohol portion of this program every year. So Angie and Brittany have come up with a fantastic cocktail to teach you how to make tomorrow night. It's called Mama's Rum Line Stitch, and it's inspired by the auction piece that we have from Elister Richardson. So if you want to learn to mix a Mama's Rum Line Stitch cocktail and hear who won the Auction People's Choice Awards, sign on tomorrow night at 5:30, and I'll send out the Zoom information tomorrow morning. And then Friday, we have A World of Camellias with Alex Hinson, learning how to grow and enjoy your own camellias. And then Saturday evening, we have a really fun Gadsden Arts game show and auction finale And of course, we have our auction going on all week and it ends Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So thank you all for signing on, and we look forward to sharing more of a fun week with you. Appreciate you all.